And, oh, there we are. They moved the camera on me. We're back with a gentleman that's always fun to have visit us. He's been here before. He is the amazing, the one, the only amazing Kreskin. And you don't even need an introduction.
But not so amazing yesterday.
Why? What happened?
I landed here.
That's what I love about him. You don't need to just say one word.
No. I landed here because I had to tape some things, and I had a concert last night. I won't mention the product because Pepsi-Cola's had enough publicity as it is, but at any rate, for their company. And I landed at the airport on a direct flight, and they lost all my luggage. Now, I'm a mentalist, but I can't figure out how you lose luggage on a direct flight unless they open the cockpit window and just threw the luggage out the window. And you know, I'm not knocking flying. I just wish I didn't have to do it commercially because it drives you crazy. But they're not sympathetic with me, and I think they think it's funny. All they ever say to me is, "You're a mentalist, tell us where the luggage is."
Did they do that to you?
Yeah,
really?
And I asked them to read my thoughts at that moment. We found it about...
They have no trouble doing, I'll bet.
It came out on the conveyor belt, I guess, a half hour later, so I don't know if someone had been taking bets on it or what, but it was one of those crazy days where with limousines we had 2 flat tires, you know, and then the day went on and got gravely more interesting. But
wait, you went from losing your luggage into a limousine that got 2 flat tires?
People say to me, you know, because I did last year 315 appearances around the world, so I was averaging flying for, we figured out a certain amount of months. Every 10 days I flew on 22 flights. That was my average time in an airplane, 22 flights every 10 days. And I think the craziest time was 1 week in my career when my luggage was lost every single day for an entire week. So I think people don't know that side of the business, do they, Lord? But it's good to be here.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you made it. I'm glad all your luggage came.
Yeah, and I'm in one piece.
You put air in your tires and everything is back.
I don't drive that much anymore.
No. You just gave that up. Now, you're into this hypnotism thing. You don't like hypnotism.
I don't dislike hypnosis. No, I think it has its right...
Laura has a smirk on her face.
No.
He told me he was going to read my mind. I'm trying to empty it.
No. That would... stay tuned, folks. By the next part of the program, we'll get back to the original thought.
I'm concentrating on that little spot over there on the floor.
No, I don't mean it that way. For the sake of the psychologists and the behaviorists looking in, I really feel hypnosis has its rightful place on the public stage as an entertainment, period. First, now my real concern, all kidding aside, is that there's been a controversy for a long time about the use of hypnosis in the courts. You know, we've seen in scenarios, in plays and movies, and now we read an awful lot about people who've seen crimes, witnessed crimes, and then been hypnotized and made to recall the details of the crime. Listen, in all due credit, the pioneering work, aside from the Israeli police, took place here in Los Angeles, where you have a hypnosis squad. It was the start about 10 years ago. And people were being hypnotized to recall the details of the crime. All I'm against is
against all
of that, totally
hypnosis
from beginning to end. For a number of
law enforcement and
yeah,
in court.
In the courts, it should be stopped. It better be stopped. And I hope that the public is alert enough to start protesting more any of these techniques. First of all, we've been given a snow job. People do not remember better when they're hypnotized. Nobody ever regressed under hypnosis. You give a person up. How in the world could, if Laura or you were hypnotized, and let's say I was telling you to go back in your life. Now you're the night of the crime or the night of some traumatic incident, and you start reliving it. Well, how in the world could you really be reliving it knowing the hypnotist? I mean, you would no longer be with the hypnotist. You'd be at another point. So what's happening is the subjects are play acting, and they're using their imagination better, but there's been some bad side effects. We have found that, and I used to be known as a hypnotist, we have found that subjects, instead of remembering, often are making up information. One young man who witnessed a hit-and-run crime on a college campus the next day was, quote, hypnotized. He remembered the license plate number of the automobile so clearly the police were thrilled. They found out it was the president of the university. It was his car. The man had had a party that night. His car was locked in the garage. It never was out of the garage. Now, the youngster wasn't faking, he wasn't making up, but under pressure. His imagination started to play tricks, and he probably saw the automobile in a parade. By the way, I want to tell you something very dramatic. I held a press conference 2 years ago on the steps of the New Jersey Supreme Court, where a critical case had come up involving hypnosis in the courts. The Supreme Court had to make a decision. I hypnotized 14 people, including the head of the lobbyists of the state of New Jersey, standing outdoors, and we had CBS, we had the public service, and we had a lot of press. And each of these people under deep hypnosis recalled vividly an accident in their life. One fellow, as a teenager, was being pinned against the wall by a teenage gang, and that was years earlier. When I brought him out of hypnosis, the bottom line is this. The press asked these people, how did you remember this so clearly? One girl nearly drowning. And all 14 of the subjects said, these incidents never happened. I had programmed them to remember the false information, and the information seemed clear to them.
Well, you programmed them?
To remember false information, which means this. Since that incident, organized crime has approached me twice last summer. Would I be willing to program a handful of criminals or criminal-minded people to bear false testimony and protect the criminal by remembering that he was with them the night of the crime playing cards? There is not a psychiatrist on earth that would know if these people were telling the truth or not telling the truth. Incidentally, to the credit of California, the Supreme Court has banned hypnosis evidence in court in this state, and just last week, the state of New York as well. So, Paul, what everybody thought was a Pandora's box was an Achilles heel.
He always does this to me. You always call me Paul.
Did I do that again? And would you tell them why? Would you tell them we discussed this?
I'm trying to remember the story, but he always does this to me.
Was there not a time in your life
when I was known as Paul?
And I never knew you at that time.
And he does this all the time.
Unconsciously. I couldn't figure out why. It was driving me crazy.
Amazing. Simply amazing.
We're coming back because I'm going to
got to take a break.
By the way, I'm going to do something with Laura when we come back.
I'm flabbergasted. My bottom lip is shaking.
Well, I'm going to do something with Laura when we come back.
Okay.
And she is so nervous about that, I'm excited.
Okay. We'll be back with more of the amazing Kreskin.